So speaking of TV 14 and Monday Night Raw, well, one person who's going to show up on Monday Night Raw this upcoming Monday, July the 18th, who's going to show up to a TV 14 Raw, good for him, I guess, and that is the newly signed multi-match deal, Logan Paul. Now, we know Logan Paul was a special enforcer at WrestleMania 37 down in Tampa, which he did absolutely nothing. It was a complete waste of the biggest celebrity waste of an appearance I've ever seen. But then he redeemed himself this past year at WrestleMania, where he teamed up with The Miz, actually wrestling, actually competing, actually kind of being a part of a decent story, if you will, with The Miz, and obviously the turn at the end in their match against the Mysterios. But now it's official. He signed a multi-match deal. He's back in WWE. He'll be showing up this Monday night on Raw. And I think one of those interesting things about this, and a lot of friends of mine have said this, and which makes him a good sell, is that he's a heel. He's a built-in heel. Everybody hates him. Everyone loves to boo him. It's going to work great. But he's not trying to be a heel. He's come out and said he's trying to be a face, and his heel days are over. How's that going to work out for Logan Paul?
I mean, on the surface, I would say it would not work well because, as you said, he is one of the most heel-ish figures in the public forum, so to speak. So it's very tough for anybody to say, hey, I like this guy, I like what he's doing. But if anybody can make it work, it is Mr. Paul, Logan Paul himself. He can make these things work. That's why he is successful as he is.
You can't fool the crowd, though. So I wonder when he comes out, is he going to get cheers or is he going to get boos?
That's a good question. And I would say he's still going to get boos. I would just say that because it's him. It's Logan Paul. So I would say, yes, he's probably going to get booed, but he's probably going to cut some sort of promo where he gets some cheers, where he's going to make fun of the Miz about his balls, because that's the big thing right now. Everybody's talking about Miz's balls.
And again, like the TV 14 thing, maybe the TV 14 thing is just them catching up. Maybe that's a TV 14 thing, and they're like, we shouldn't have probably been saying that on TV PG, but now we can keep going with it on TV 14.
And the other part to it as well is it's kind of interesting that Logan Paul is going to be at the first Raw under the TV 14 umbrella. So I mean, there's got to be something behind the scenes that maybe even Logan Paul had some input. I don't know. I mean, he has enough pull these days where he pretty much made his own contract. I guess from reports out there, which we don't know, we weren't in the room when the negotiations were happening. But like you said, Logan Paul pretty much told WWE, I want to be a face. This is what we're going to do. And I bet you he had enough pull to maybe say, this is what I want to do. If you want me here, this is what I want.
And I think he thinks he's going to be a face because The Miz is a traditional bad guy. So he thinks if he faces The Miz, it's going to be a face versus a heel.
Which could work, yes.
Which is a lot of the truth. A lot of people who face The Miz, obviously, get a lot of face notoriety
Miz
because
does his job.
Miz is a good heel.
Miz does his hell of a job doing that.
You know, this kind of reminds me similar to last summer when Becky Lynch came back and they tried making Becky Lynch a heel, despite the fact that everybody wanting her to be a face and being like, no, you can't just tell us that she's a heel. And it took a little bit, and she kind of did be a heel after a while, but not right away.
There are a lot of superstars currently, and even over the years, that were, if you go in the back, backstage, so to speak, where they were, they're being written as heels, but they're getting better pops than the faces. That's how the business works sometimes.
Well, and that's what I say with The Miz here. You're going to have to write The Miz versus Logan Paul in this match, or in this scenario, in this storyline, to not say some things that The Miz would normally say, because us wrestling fans who like the wrestlers, even the ones who were bad guys over essentially the celebrities, are already thinking that if they gave Miz free reign, it would be great. It would be like John Cena when he was talking about the Usos back in the day, being drunk and kind of bringing in real life things. So The Miz could use some of that fodder about being, a fake wrestler, or like you don't know what to do, or why don't you just go back to Instagram? And that would actually make The Miz more of a face. Logan Paul, keeping him a heel. But I think they're going to try to keep away from that, and I think they're going to write it so that The Miz doesn't kind of do that and more or less give some of those one-liners to Logan Paul instead.
And I was speaking of those one-liners, just say, you just kind of teed it up for me on this. So I could see a back and forth portion where Logan Paul and Miz are talking, and Miz says that exact thing. You're a social media famous person. You don't deserve to be here. And then Logan Paul could be funny and say, Miz, isn't your whole repertoire of moves stolen from somebody else who may not even be here anymore in WWE? Like a Daniel Bryan Danielson reference with the it kicks that he stole. Of course, the
and obviously the Miz is easy to make fun of right now. We talked about a few minutes ago about the whole balls thing. Obviously, I don't know if you saw on the Miz and Maurice, but him running around tanning in his thong with Dolph Ziggler. Well, a lot of things that are easy to essentially make fun of, especially if you're Logan Paul.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like Ziggler's like, "What are you doing, dude?" And then I remember in that scene on Miz's Message. I enjoyed the show. It's actually really interesting. It's actually a funny show. Miz is in the tanning area in his tanning thong, which I've never heard of that. I don't tan anyways. I'm kind of pasty white, so I don't really tan. But he asked the girl, the attendant who obviously knows the business. She works at a tanning facility, tanning salon, and she says, he says to her, "Is this dude? A lot of people wear these thongs," and she says, "No." So it's like the Miz is a very interesting character, and you can use that. You can use that, that information from the show where Logan Paul can make fun of him off of that. You can make fun of the Dancing with the Stars thing. Logan Paul can say, "Hey, I could, if it was me on there, I would have actually won. I wouldn't have finished in 9th place."
Yeah, I mean, I think the Miz and Logan Paul probably work really good together. The one thing I'll say after SummerSlam is essentially this is a multi-match deal, and you kind of wonder where Logan Paul goes from here. Obviously, it's not going to be 10 matches against The Miz. We're going to, you kind of wonder.
Is it a per match? Is it a certain amount of matches, or did he sign an actual contract?
It's like a Brock Lesnar kind of contract in the sense that it's a per match deal. Like he signed a certain number of matches. I don't have the number of matches.
So he signed
like
a Brock Lesnar Goldberg. Like, hey, for my contract. Doesn't matter. It could take 1 year. It could take 5 years. These are the matches.
Correct. He signed a multi-match contract. That's how it was worded.
Okay.
A multi-match contract. You obviously are going to probably assume that those matches include SummerSlam, maybe Clash at the Castle because that's a big stadium event, Royal Rumble, and WrestleMania. I could see him missing the Survivor Series because the Survivor Series isn't one of those kind of celebrity.
Actually, I could see him in the Survivor Series. I really can. I mean, they could have like a team Paul versus Team Miz.
That is very true. The past couple of years, they've done, for the most part, Survivor Series has been removed of celebrity and glitz and glamour. It's just been Raw versus SmackDown.
But here's the thing. At this point, if he's signing a per match contract, now he's not. I mean, yes, he's still a celebrity, but now he's a actual WWE competitor. But
if you've noticed, even the Brock Lesnar's of the world, when he hasn't been champion, because he's not the champion, have skipped out on the Survivor Series. The Goldberg skipped out because it's like the main event is just champion versus champion without really any storyline. Sometimes they've even moved the Brock Lesnar's for like the next pay-per-view, for the December pay-per-view, or just skipped it right to the Royal Rumble kind of thing. And the Survivor Series has been one of those pay-per-views as of late that has had no storylines. It's just been champion versus champion and really not really...
I would say that
any build to any of the matches.
We don't know. Obviously, we don't know the terms of the deal. Like how many
matches. Obviously, SummerSlam's for sure.
He's probably.
And I want to say Royal Rumble and WrestleMania for sure.
He's doing the big four.
Yeah,
the big four. That's what I think. I think he's doing the big four. I don't know how many matches there are. We don't know the exact terms, but you said it's a per match thing. So if you're gonna have a per match thing, you put him on the biggest 4 pay-per-views of the year. Maybe you throw him in Money in the Bank next year, something like that.
I could see him at Clash at the Castle just for the fact that that's being considered a big event. There's a reason why SummerSlam I think has been pushed up until July 30th, and why it's, in the same month as Money in the Bank, and why it's not in August, to give Clash of the Castle enough room to breathe so they can build up for that pay-per-view, which is probably going to be the most attended out of all the ones this summer.
It's going to be a big show. I mean, you're going to see other UK names there as well. So I mean, it's going to be
yeah, could we finally see the return of Tyson Fury?
Yeah, that's what I'm alluding to. I think that could be something you could see. Maybe there's some sort of interaction between him and then Logan Paul. I mean, Tyson Fury and Logan Paul, that's so mainstream. Like WWE, you would get so much. I mean, obviously you're going to get a lot of tread on it anyways. But I mean, those guys, you're going to get even more
Speaking of guys that are boxers and stuff and in the ring, and I don't want to necessarily give his brother too much credit, but he's also talked about the fact that maybe he could bring his brother in on occasion and they could team up. Do you think, I don't want to, again, give his brother too much credit, but do you think maybe his brother, with what he's going on, maybe like, say, Logan, this is cool, that's your thing, but Jake Paul, kind of stay out of it? Or do you see Jake Paul maybe coming in for an appearance, teaming up with Logan Paul on occasion?
I do see it because
I think Jake's the bigger name. I don't think either of them are great names. I'm not excited about any of them. But I think if you were to say the more mainstream celebrity, you got to give the edge to Jake.
I don't know. I give them both. I would say they're both even in my book. I mean, that's as much as I know. I don't sit there and watch any of their social media content by any means. But to me, they're a package, so to speak. So one maybe not as it's like having certain members of a band, so to speak, where if you don't have the lead singer, well, you got the guitarist, that's great, but we need the other person, the other part.
And
of
I would say
crew.
in this aspect, Logan Paul would be like the guitarist. I think Jake Paul's the front man. I think because Jake Paul's actually,
I would say they're more of a duet. I really do.
I would say because Jake Paul has been more of somebody who's sold pay-per-views on his own when it comes to these boxing celebrity things. Like he's been more in the ring with the more mainstream, with the Floyd Mayweathers and those kind of people. Logan Paul has been relegated to just in a WWE event, while Jake's been like his own Jake Paul Presents events, if you will.
Yeah, but I'll say this, but WWE is the bigger appeal than just his regular pay-per-views. Jake Paul's regular pay-per-views.
I think that what was he was on the one with Mike Tyson when Mike Tyson fought Roy Jones Jr. right a couple years ago.
But here's the thing, I don't know the buy rates
Nate
on
Robinson in that one.
Yeah,
I think the buy rate was like equivalent to a WrestleMania.
That's pretty good. Okay, that's pretty good.
I mean, obviously Mike Tyson helped that a lot.
Well, it's Mike friggin' Tyson.
I think like the Tyson Evander Holyfield fights back in the 90s top anything that WWE has like ever done, except for maybe one or two grand WrestleManias. I think those kind of things are like it's like the NFL. As great and as many people as watch a WrestleMania, a NFL football playoff game is going to trump that 10 times.
Well, it's the NFL is a whole
like
different
WWE
animal.
is great for Monday nights on the USA Network. You wouldn't put them up against Sunday Night Football kind of things.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't make those mistakes.
So I think Jake Paul participating in the things that involve like the Floyd Mayweathers of the world and the Mike Tysons of the world, those pay-per-view buy rates just have a little more mainstream cachet than Logan Paul being a part of WWE.
Duet. They're no matter what, they're a duet. I would say this. They will both. I'll bank on this. I would say by WrestleMania next year, they're going to see them in the ring together.
The interesting thing is this Monday night, Logan Paul, the first TV 14 Monday Night Raw, and Logan Paul coming out saying that he is a face. We'll see what all of those things and how they all intertwine with Logan Paul coming out on Monday Night Raw. And obviously, like I said, boos or cheers. And what is he going to do with the new TV 14 format?
I do want to add something to it. I know we touched on talking about the Miz and having that back and forth that they're going to have. What better person to have to put you over as a face than the Miz? The Miz is like that guy that everybody like just loves to hate. So if you're going to have anybody put Logan Paul in the face category, it's the Miz. The Miz can make you hate him so much that you're going to like the other guy just because you hate him even more.
I will say it'd work a little bit better with the Miz. Don't put him back with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, because last time, when he was a special enforcer, he was booed. Regardless of who was rooting for who in that match, everyone was booing Logan Paul.
That whole thing sucked. That whole thing sucked. It's to me, it's Logan Paul is who he is. He's a star in his own right, social media, all that stuff. He's done a lot of that. What do they call it? Influencer, all that jazz. But the Miz is what is the catalyst here. If the Miz does his job, which the Miz he hits grand slams all the freaking time. That's just how good he is. The Miz continues to do what he does. Logan Paul has the best shot to be a face because of the Miz.
It's going to be interesting, like I said, to see Logan Paul makes his debut, the first since signing a multi-match contract, this Monday night on Raw.